This is Frankly MSP, where managed service providers get real.
Hey, and welcome to episode 5 of Frankly MSP, the podcast for managed service providers who want to boost their productivity, efficiency, and profitability. I'm your host, Jennifer Tribe. Today, we're going to take a deep breath and have a little chat about meditation. Later in the show, ex-techie, now meditation consultant Amanda Weber drops by to share some truths on how mindfulness can ramp up your team's intelligence and productivity. I mean, you can literally boost IQ with meditation. And I'll put a link in the show notes to an article that talks about that. But first, let's take a look at what's going on. This is a regular segment where your favorite MSP consultants, Tubb and Karl Palachuk, take a look at what's happening in the world and how it affects MSPs.
You're listening to Frankly MSP, brought to you by Auvik Networks.
Hi everyone, Tubb here, and it's the Frankly MSP Podcast, and it's the section that we call What's Going On, and I'm speaking with Karl Palachuk in, well, frankly, I don't know where you are, Karl. Where are you in the world this week?
Back in Brisbane. I was in Brisbane last week, and then I went to the Sunshine Coast and actually took vacation. Now I'm back in Brisbane to talk at the SMB IT Pro Conference here.
I've been on the road as well the last couple of weeks. I'm in Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of the country today, but I've been in the capital of England, London, the last 2 weeks. So last week I was at the CompTIA EMEA conference, so we had about 500 attendees there. Lots of interesting conversation around GDPR, which is a big thing this side of the pond at the moment, the data regulations, and security was foremost on most people's conversations. And then this week, I beg your pardon, I've just returned from DattoCon London 17, where was actually Europe's biggest MSP-focused conference. So there was 800-odd attendees, about 400 MSPs there. And lots of big news coming out of that, including, we've got to reference it, overnight, I woke up to the news that Datto are acquiring or merging, whichever way the story's going to play out, DattoTask. What do you make of that story, Karl?
Well, it's a very big story, so I'm assuming the actual press release is going to come out in the morning. So, and then we'll see all the speculation about what it means for everybody. But I just find it very interesting as these companies kind of grow and merge, they change their focus a little bit. And you and I interchanged a little bit about that on Facebook.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this pans out. We'll have more on that on the next episode. But as you say, the official news of that has not gone live yet. So we'll touch upon that next time.
I do have a question about EMEA, about the CompTIA and DattoCon conferences. How many vendors were there? Were they these vendor-centric conferences?
It wasn't specifically vendor-centric. So I would say at the CompTIA event, there was probably about 300 or so MSPs. There was a lot of vendors there, very well attended. And for anybody not familiar with CompTIA, it's probably the best way to describe it is almost like a trade association for the IT industry. Lots of people may be familiar with CompTIA through the A+ certification and the other certifications that are out there. But there's a whole different side to CompTIA, and that's the evangelizing and lobbying for the tech industry. So the EMEA conference was about 500 people from the channel getting together and talking IT business. So very good event, very good organization.
Excellent.
I did want to talk about some news coming out of DattoCon, and there was lots of news coming out of DattoCon, but the big news for me was the announcement of the managed service provider friendly networking equipment. So Datto have already announced this in the US, but at DattoCon EMEA in London, they announced it for Europe, and most of the countries in Europe are going to be represented here. And what it is, they've released 3 products initially. They have released the Datto, the DNA, which is a very cool looking router with integrated 4G LTE failover. And what that basically means is out of the box, it's configured to connect to, here in the UK, it would be the Vodafone network. Very, very simple to set up. If anybody's familiar with the Meraki equipment that was acquired by Cisco a few years ago, it's very similar to that. You familiar with the Meraki side of things, Karl?
Yes, we actually sold it in my last company.
Yeah, well, if anybody's not familiar with Meraki, it's a cloud-centric networking equipment. So what that means is you don't really touch the box, the networking equipment itself. You just do everything through a portal, set it all up, and then ship it out to the client. As soon as they plug it in, it goes live and pulls down a configuration. So Datto have argued that in the networking space, the networking hardware space, you've got people like Meraki who focus, Cisco Meraki focus on the enterprise space. You've got lots of consumer-focused equipment, sort of cheap and cheerful at the bottom end. But really for MSPs, there's nothing in the middle and nothing that makes it easy for MSPs to manage, configure, to maintain on an ongoing basis. So, as I said, they released the DNA, the router with integrated 4G failover. They've released the AP42, which is a wireless switch. It's indoor and outdoor IP55 rated, so you can stick it outside the building. It's got an impressive setup. And then you've got a line of switches, the L8, the E8, the L24, the E24 and E48. Obviously, the numbers correspond to the number of ports they've got there. But the key thing about all three sets of equipment here is that it's going to be cloud managed and cloud deployed. So you can do everything through a single pane of glass, much the way Meraki do. So interesting. What do you make of this, Karl? Do you think this is a step in the right direction from Datto with the MSP industry in mind?
Well, I think somebody has to come out with equipment. Datto seems, to be honest, a very odd choice. I've never quite figured out how they went from BDRs to networking equipment, but if they make it, they make it. To me, it just seemed like an odd move when they announced it in the United States. But clearly, there is a need for this in our space. So if they're the first ones to market, they may have quite a product there.
Indeed, yeah. The pricing was very keen. Won't talk specifically about pricing, but the feedback I got from MSPs that I spoke to in the UK and Europe was that the pricing's keen. So this could be a big move for Datto. We'll certainly see how that story pans out. But moving away from networking and Datto, what have you noticed going on in the industry? What's going on with Karl Palachuk?
Well, there's quite a story in the New York Times about the way that people are being paid for being divert AI. You and I talked the last couple of us about the artificial intelligence maybe being a little creepy. Well, the New York Times has this story about it being shockingly expensive. Developers are being paid thousands of dollars, and they literally, the article talked about a couple of people in the range of salary plus options for stock in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $500,000 a year, which is just off the charts. It literally is like athletes, and they're some of them are signing multi-year deals. So can you imagine signing a 3-year deal for, $1.5 million? And so it's interesting because it means that the scramble for AI is going to grow really quickly. And people who are willing to learn can absolutely get into that space. One of the things I mentioned in my row that you attended was that, you can learn any new technology. Something can be invented right away, and within 5 years, you can master that technology. So it's just a matter of not being intimidated by it and taking the opportunity to go learn something new that can in this case, take your career to a very different level.
Well, I was stunned by the sort of salaries that they're paying. So this is the story that tech giants are paying huge salaries for scarce AI, artificial intelligence talent by the New York Times. We'll share the link to that in the show notes. But to give some examples, so you've already mentioned, sort of $350,000 to $500,000 a year for these AI talent. But the one that jumped out to me was Anthony Lewandowski of Google. He was their AI expert. He's recently joined Uber, and Google have released the news that he walked away from Google with $120 million in salary and bonuses before joining Uber. So the first thing that strikes me, Karl, is, man, we're in the wrong industry. We should be moving towards AI.
And we have to make sure that people understand, we're not talking about the owner of the company. We're not talking about the chairman and the board. We're talking about a programmer. That, when you hear those kinds of stories, you almost automatically think this is the founder, who is finally getting his payoff.
Yeah, I mean, this is more than some startup businesses sell for. And this, Anthony Lewandowski of Google, their AI expert, this is $120 million before joining Uber. So the mind boggles at what Uber have offered him to actually, to jump ship across there.
Right.
What does this mean for the MSP industry in practical terms? So in the MSP space, it's down the road a little bit, it's got to be said, but what does AI mean for the MSP space? Is this something we should be waking up and paying attention to now?
I think in the short term, we're going to see it. We're going to go online and we're going to witness it, and we're going to probably have a better chance than our clients of understanding it. It will be a while before we see some benefit. The area where we will see the benefit is going to be in security. We're already getting to the point where the police wear these chest-mounted cameras in some cities, and that's for making sure that the cops stay under control. But it's also something where they'll eventually have instantaneous face recognition of the people who are walking by, and that level of security will probably within 5 years be something we sell to our clients for use in their businesses.
As with all things, I mean, if we think back, the mobile devices and that whole revolution, we just take for granted within the MSP industry now, everybody uses mobile devices. That started out in the consumer area, didn't it? And those MSPs who were savvy and got on board with it, sort of leading the charge in the MSP space. So you think AI is going to be along the same lines for the MSP industry?
Part of it is people thinking of new ways to use it. And that's where it's almost hard for people to understand what this big data movement means. Once you can monitor, for example, all of the movement in a house, you could literally determine, say, hey, it looks like everybody's getting ready for bed, and start turning off lights and stuff like that. And that's just a matter, like, we were programmers of that, but certainly that's the kind of thing that we could be selling into our clients' businesses and homes, of that kind of pattern recognition. And in a lot of ways, that's where we're going to benefit in the security area, to fighting viruses and ransomware and all that as well. That basically, you can't monitor 100,000 cameras, but you can analyze the data and what does normal look like. So then you can figure out what does abnormal look like. And it's the same with LED lighting and all kinds of other stuff. As this, Internet of Things expands, it's all just an opportunity for us to figure out what can we do with that, where can we figure out a way to provide a better service and obviously get paid for that.
Absolutely. So for MSPs, practical advice is keep an eye on this area. It's absolutely going to be something that impacts the MSP space in the future. And just like the mobile revolution from years gone by, if you don't know about it, you're going to get left behind. This is absolutely going to apply to the MSP industry. So it's been an interesting week in technology, interesting couple of weeks in technology. I shudder to think what's going to happen by the time we speak in a couple of weeks' time for the next What's Going On, Karl. So we'll wait and see with bated breath what's going on there. Safe travels, my friend. Thank you for catching up with me all the way from Brisbane. I'm Richard Tubb here in Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of the UK. That's What's Going On, and we'll look forward to speaking to you soon.
You're listening to Frankly MSP.
I'll put links to the articles and resources Karl and Richard discussed in today's show notes at auvik.com, AUV as in Victor, IK.com/franklymsp/005. And now we come to the interview portion of the show, and I'm talking to Amanda Weber, who used to work in the tech industry here in Waterloo, Ontario, home to Auvik Networks and BlackBerry, among other companies. We talk about why meditation seems to be taking off as a corporate practice right now. The big benefits you and your employees can get from a little daily mindfulness. Higher IQ, we mentioned that at the beginning. Better problem solving, higher productivity, less stress, fewer sick days, lower healthcare costs, more happiness. And if that all sounds good to you, we also talk about the best ways to get started with a meditation program in your office. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to Frankly MSP.
Hello and good morning.
I so love the topic that we're going to talk about today because in some ways it seems almost counterintuitive. We're a show focused on helping technical companies gain more productivity, efficiency, and profitability from their businesses. Very fast-paced, kind of right-brain stuff. And yet here we're going to talk about slowing things down with some meditation and mindfulness. First, let's define meditation and mindfulness. Is there a difference between those two terms?
Yeah, this is such a great place to start because I find that often those words get used in an intertwined way. And so let me tell you how I understand it in my world. And that is that Meditation is a practice of bringing your attention to a single point of focus. So maybe you're going to choose to follow your breath, or maybe you're going to listen to a guided practice, but you're bringing your mind to a single point of focus. Mindfulness is an act or a sense of being focused that you take out into your day. So meditation is like a practice, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. And mindfulness is a way of being in each activity in your day. But both of them are about trying to be in the present moment.
Meditation has obviously been around for a long, long time, but it's just starting to gain tremendous popularity. It seems to me just starting to gain popularity as a workplace practice. Why now?
Well, I think there's no shock the impact that our sort of always on, always connected way of being with the uptake with internet and mobile phones and people being connected all the time. Stress is at epidemic levels. And so these sort of feelings of depletion and overwhelm, something's got to give. And meditation is one of these tools that provides a release from the stress, but also a sense of building resiliency towards stress that benefits us not just at home and in our personal lives, but in our workplace as well.
There's also been a huge wave of scientific research into meditation in the last decade or so. Can you tell us about some of the major findings?
There's been research on the benefits of meditation for 10 years, more than 10 years, as long as I've been meditating. But what I'm seeing now is that the independent research outside of the meditation community, the third-party research is confirming what the meditation community was already reporting. So I think the science is catching up with what people who meditate already were feeling, which is great. It's great that the science is catching up, because for people like you and me that are wired more scientifically, that's sometimes what pushes us into trying something that's a bit more ethereal, if you will. The things like less reactivity. There's the physiological benefits that we're seeing research to corroborate, lowered heart rate, lowered blood pressure, less headaches from stress. People tend to eat healthier. People tend to sleep better. So there's sort of those physiological, and then probably more what I would say on the emotional wellness aspect. And that is, for me, the science is showing that people are able to react to stressful situations in ways that they can access greater creativity, greater ability to reason in stressful situations. And so these are the types of things that I think the research is really starting to be able to prove in a way that is helping people to take that leap of faith toward bringing things like meditation into the workplace.
You're listening to Frankly MSP.
As an employer, what would be some of the major benefits for implementing a workplace meditation practice?
A lot of people think it's a very personal thing, so that if you bring it into the workplace, that each individual person will benefit. I kind of like to look at it that how we present in the workplace, how we show up in the workplace, has a ripple effect for good or for challenging. I hate to say bad, or for challenging. And if employees can minimize their stress, if they can learn how to deal with stress, that ripple in the environment or the culture of the company will become stronger, more positive, more team focused. When we engage the stress response in our body, we aren't able to really think as a team, because the stress response, it's the fight-flight response. It's that response in our body that says, I need to survive what is sitting in front of me. That doesn't really lend to a team sort of way of thinking. If we can cultivate a practice with people to better manage their stress, then all of a sudden, even when things get stressful in the workplace, we can still disarm that stress response or disengage it and feel a sense of team. And I don't know any company that can't benefit hugely from that sort of ripple in their culture and their company.
What about the employees who are doing meditation? What do they think of it?
In my experience, people aren't necessarily lining up to learn meditation or to want to spend 5 minutes in stillness a day. But if I say, hey, how are you doing with your stress? People will literally line up at the door. They will come because everybody's feeling stress and they don't want to feel it. So meditation is an antidote to stress. So when employees are feeling stressed, they want some tools to better manage it. And many people want tools that aren't a medication, or they realize that a vacation doesn't take the stress away. It might for a short period of time, but it doesn't give them a resiliency. So I think when you position it that it's a tool for resiliency against stress, then all of a sudden employees are really happy to give it a try.
What about some of the other benefits? I've seen, for example, a study that showed meditation could increase your IQ and help you perform better on problem-solving activities. What are you seeing around that?
We have two states that our body stays in. Either we are in that sort of stressed state where things are coming at us in our day-to-day lives and we're trying to react to them, or we're in what I would call a relaxation state, which doesn't mean you're laying back on a couch relaxed, but you don't have the stress response engaged. Imagine if you're a caveman, let's go back to these times, and there's a saber-toothed tiger, and the saber-toothed tiger is coming at you. You engage the stress response in your body in 2 seconds or less, and all you're thinking about is either fighting or running away. And your body physiologically is showing up to help you do that. Your heart's beating faster, your blood pressure's increasing, shunting blood out to the extremities of your body so you can fight or run away. If we're in that state, imagine asking yourself to try and access your higher consciousness, your ability to problem solve in unique ways, your ability to work within a team without engaging that sort of ego response. It's almost impossible to do that. And so when we cultivate an ability to sort of disengage that stress response and engage with that relaxation response, that's where I think the higher IQ and the creativity and all these other things come from.
What would you say is the minimum commitment for making something like this work for a company? How long do you have to do it before you see results?
This is the $1 million question, right? Because everybody would like to spend less time and get more results. Here's what I found personally, is that it's like any new habit or practice. The benefits accrue over time. I would say 5 to 10 minutes a day consistently would garner results that you would start to feel. And the results are sort of twofold. 5 to 10 minutes a day gives your body a chance to sort of experience that disengaging the stress response and engaging the relaxation response. So that's part of the benefit. But the real benefit is you take that knowing or that ability out into your day. So even if your mind is busy for those 5 to 10 minutes, you're still practicing. You're still showing up. You're still training your brain to be in the present moment, but the benefits accrue out in your day. And I really believe that if you're consistent and you show up for 5 to 10 minutes a day, that your benefits will accrue quite quickly.
And if you're an employer and you're saying, okay, let's try a workplace meditation program, we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. At what point are you able to make an assessment and say, okay, this is working for us or isn't? And what would the markers be for making a decision like that?
Maybe this is actually the $1 million question. There's a sense or a feeling when employees are just happier, right? When they seem to be more resilient, when things are stressful at work. I think what you're going to have to do is gauge. You're going to have to engage with people. You're going to have to talk to people and look for anecdotal information where before we would have reacted and it would have felt like this. And now all of a sudden, look, we got past this better. So you're looking sort of for anecdotal examples in the easiest way to see if it's working.
Any recommended reading or recommended tools for people who are interested in exploring the idea or want to get started with it?
So there are a lot of books out there. There's a lot of information on the internet. I think if you're just looking to dip in and pique your interest, online publications like Forbes, like Inc. magazine, like the Huffington Post, they all on a pretty regular basis will talk about meditation, mindfulness in the workplace and the benefits of it. And they often will cite the really recent scientific research because they are more mainstream and business focused places. I think that's a great place to go and dabble and build your confidence that this is something that would be great for your workplace.
So wrapping things up, what's your number one piece of advice for an MSP leader who wants to get their team started with meditation?
I think the best step is to invite someone to come into your organization, maybe for a lunch and learn or for a coffee in a roundtable type session, and really demystify what meditation is, so that, if you say to employees, hey, we're going to start a meditation practice, people are they're going to be armed a little bit. I think you want to disarm it, demystify it, talk about the science behind it, let people know that it's not so much meditation as it's an antidote to stress, and it's a tool we can all use to be healthier, happier, more productive, not only in the workplace, but at home. And when we're happier at home, we come into work happier. When we're happier and more resilient at work, we go home happier, and it's just a complete win-win, full circle.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda.
Great. You're so welcome.
That was Amanda Weber, certified meditation instructor and corporate wellness trainer. You can find Amanda online at amandajweber, WEBER.com. I'll put that link along with some other resources in today's show notes at auvik.com/franklymsp/005. And I wanted to mention another great resource that I came across personally a couple of years ago is a book called Success Through Stillness by Russell Simmons. Simmons is a hip-hop legend. I guess no other way to describe him. He co-founded Def Jam Recordings back in the early 80s. He worked with Run DMC, LL Cool J, the Beastie Boys. And in this book, Success Through Stillness, he credits much of his success and creativity and smart decision-making to a daily meditation practice that he sustained for more than 20 years. It's a great book, very engaging, very interesting, and an easy way to learn more about the benefits of meditation. So if you're looking to explore the topic, I highly recommend that. Success Through Stillness, Russell Simmons. I'll put a link in the show notes to that. Well, that's a wrap. Thumbs up. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a comment on the show notes at auvik.com/franklymsp or writing a review of Frankly MSP on iTunes. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember to subscribe to Frankly MSP in your favorite podcast app to make sure you don't miss a single episode, like episode 6, our next episode, where I talk to Mike Payton at EOS Worldwide about how to get unstuck when you feel your MSP is spinning its wheels. It's all about traction. Till next time, this is Jennifer Tribe. Thanks for listening.
Frankly MSP, brought to you by Auvik Networks, the most efficient and profitable way to manage your clients' networks.